Welcome to Bougie and Boring, the spa business podcast that proves success doesn't have to be stressful. My name is Amanda Louisa. I'm a spa owner and a coach, and around here, bougie means high-end and well-paid. Boring means drama-free and simple. Together, that's how you build a spa that's smooth, profitable, and actually fun to run. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get right to it. Hi, I'm Amanda, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that so many spa owners feel overwhelmed by, even though we all know that we need to understand it, and that is meta ads, Instagram ads, Facebook ads, whatever you want to call them, whether you've tried them before or you have just been avoiding them altogether, which I completely understand. You do not need to be tech savvy to understand them. And in this episode, I'm actually going to clear up a lot of confusion around meta ads and just running ads in general with a very dear friend of mine. She actually started off as my massage therapist, and she specializes in maternity massage. And if you didn't know, I have 2 under 2. So I have 2 and under, which feels the same as 2 under 2. But you get what I'm saying. I feel like I brought the perfect person into this conversation because Pamela not only understands the spa world, she is also a woman that has built her own spa and built her own business, and she's been very successful at it. And now, as she has kind of developed her client base, she's wanting to do more, right? Because there are only so many hours in a day. And so she has become this incredible resource for ads, Facebook, Instagram, Meta ads, and she's become my ads manager. So not only is she an expert in running Meta ads for service-based spa owners, but she's also the owner of her own spa and a licensed massage therapist by trade. So she understands what it feels like to juggle clients and the marketing and everything else that comes with running a spa, because she's actually living it too. So that's exactly why her perspective is so valuable. And she makes ads so simple and so easy to understand. She's so good at explaining things in a way that I feel like I don't feel dumb. I feel like she's really strategizing with me and being actually effective for me and my needs of my spa. She's a real gal that helps real spa owners with real business. And so today we're going to be doing a full kind of myth busting session. The biggest misconceptions about meta ads, what's true, what's outdated, what you actually need to know for your spa, and maybe some things that you can kind of leave out and not have to worry about. So let's jump right into it. All right, Pamela, welcome to the Bougie and Boring podcast. This is a spa business podcast, and I'm so excited to bring you on to talk about one of the spiciest topics in the spa world, ads, specifically meta ads. And you run my ads for my spa. You have a spa of your own. You're a massage therapist. And I want to talk a lot today about myths and miscommunication or misinformation that people have and why, and just kind of make this topic less scary for gals like us who are just trying to grow our business and make a good living. And so I knew that you would be the perfect person to bring on today because you are in this world with us. You understand the lingo. We don't have to explain to you things like dermaplaning or filler or anything like that. Like, you know what that all means.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so this is like in real time. Like, this is actually something that we're doing, and it's not like outdated or just advice that's just floating out in the internet. This is like real and coming from a real person that actually applies this and all that good jazz. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I have already read your intro, but I want you to kind of just explain to somebody who's listening how you help and what that looks like.
Good question. So yep, you read my intro. Thanks so much for having me. And um, I started learning ads. So I had like a little bit of a marketing like intro when I got my bachelor's degree in college, but did not pursue that professionally. And once I became a massage therapist 8 years ago, started to kind of put some of that into practice, especially once I started taking like business specific courses for like our industry. And then I really realized like how um, big of a difference like ads make. But what I started really focusing on like our industry and our niche was because I feel like there is this idea that like ads are super expensive and that they're not like for like solo providers or like a business that like has maybe like 3 to 7 employees, something, or like people assume that it's for like a franchise, things like that. And so like I just wanted to be able to like focus on our industry and like focus on helping other people get the success that um that we have, especially like with ads, because it's such a useful tool and it's such like a direct to consumer tool that you can use to be able to like gain new clients, because that's like the ultimate thing, to gain new clients and then to like bring back in old clients. And I think with social media, why I chose to do ads over social media, I think I like looking at some of the details in the ads, like specifically with the metrics and like working with the copy and see what works well and what doesn't. So it has like a creative found side to it. But I think they do a better job at getting like right to the goal of acquiring clients in particular, as opposed to like social media management, where sometimes people get like overwhelmed and like, I have to post every day, all day, so many times a day. And that I know can be really strong well, but I chose the ads route because it has some of that creative and then some of that like business metric as well. And it's so useful.
Yes, absolutely. It's so useful. It's a nice, almost like a puzzle. Like it's a nice way to kind of exercise your brain a little bit more than maybe just posting to
Yeah.
social media every day would be. I'm
Yeah, I
assuming.
like the testing to see how things work. And I think by being able to like figure out a strategy with it, like people can reach their business goals even quicker, and like knowing how to work it the right way.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that today. Let's
Yeah.
talk about some myths that um people in our industry, which we go, we get our licenses, we get these
Hmm.
trainings done to work on people hands on, and then we're expected to know how to send,
Yeah.
the right email at the right time and, get clients. And it's not something where if you just open your doors, they're just going to come in like a floodgate, right? We have to
Yeah.
attract them to us. And although social media is a small part of that, ads, like you said, is like the direct, it literally solves the exact problem that people have, which is gathering more clients. And we do lose clients, at least in like the aesthetic side of the spa world. We lose clients, about 20% of our clients every year. And so we need to continuously be getting
Yeah.
more clients every year. And it's not because no one did anything wrong, but maybe
Yeah.
people move away, they have babies, they, get a divorce or whatever. And things
Yes.
change. So,
Yeah.
so here's the first question I have. The first
Yeah.
myth I want you to bust. Do ads only work if you're tech savvy?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think they just work if you're tech savvy. Yes, there's like a little bit of like a curve to it, but I think it's learning similar to learning like social media in general, or managing your social media. It's just learning like how to run an ad and like what to look for. Um, and then later on, or like immediately subsequent to that is like some like strategy behind it rather than just kind of like throwing anything like out there, kind of in the same way like with social media, creating posts that like speak to your audience, and figuring out like what your audience is, and then seeing like what works best. So no, I don't think you have to be tech savvy at all. But in the process of like learning ads, you might become a little bit more tech savvy for sure.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to learn about how to do ads even just a little bit before maybe outsourcing it or
Oh, good question. I think it is for like somebody who's like really interested in business, they might and also because like it's your investment. So I don't necessarily know like I mean you I feel like want to know like what you're looking at, but also like my goal in particular with my business, because another reason that I feel like I wanted to do this was like the overwhelm of like doing all the things and kind of like buying my time back, to be able to like outsource things to quality people is like, yeah, you may want to know a little bit like of what you're looking for, but like you don't have to be the expert in it. So that way you can like outsource it, or
yeah.
give that over to somebody. But I think also like I feel like somebody in business like us like are just curious about it to see like how it works and like how it could benefit. I think at like to put it really simply, I think is people may be interested in learning about it. But I also like you said, like people go to school for massage, people go to school for aesthetics, and like we're just like, okay, great, like I have this license and everybody's gonna like come to me, but then it's like crickets because nobody like knows you exist. Like maybe like a friend or two, but that network hasn't built yet. And
Okay.
so ads kind of help increase that reach of that network and a
Okay.
bit quicker too.
So do you think that do you think ads help just the people that already have that network, or can it help
Mm,
somebody who's just starting out?
yeah,
Can it help both of those two
both
types of people?
definitely. I think it's just like what your goal is, and that's the thing. You can set campaigns up, when you're in like the Meta Ads Manager, since Meta does Facebook and Instagram. To set up like, okay, this is what my campaign's going to be. Do I want to just send the highest volume of people to my page? Do I want like qualified leads? Does the end goal, like, is that awareness, or is that actual bookings, or is that actual sales? And so that's the nice thing. It feels like you can like drive your outcome a little bit more. Um, so yes, I think it could work well for like somebody who's like fresh out the gate, but they just might be a little bit more discerning because their budget might not be somebody who's like been in this game for years and then is maybe trying to grow their practice or their like business or their clinic to like the next level, or somebody who's like just trying to keep their service providers booked.
Yeah. So obviously, the more you put into it, the more you get out. If it's being done the right way by the right person, that's the concept. That is like, if you were to put $1 into, this is not a good example, but like if you were to put a $1 into a machine and you get three out, I'm going to put as many dollars as I have into that
Yeah.
machine. You know what I mean? And so that
Yeah.
is kind of what it sounds like here. But do you need to have a really big budget in order to see those kinds of results that you're?
Good question. I don't think so. I don't think you need to have a big budget. I think in the beginning, the testing phase, of getting like figuring out like your copy, kind of like what we're doing now is like figuring out your copy and then figuring out like your audiences within the Meta Ads Manager. Because I think people, for example, like when you're starting your business, you have like an ideal client in mind, but then like Meta in particular has audiences that we can kind of pick out in that niche in particular, or maybe just that niche in particular is already there. And then you can test how like an ad works. And so just being a little bit like discerning instead of just throwing anything out there, I think can like save your budget like a little bit more, and like testing in small windows and say, okay, this performed well, we're going to take this, and then this performed well, we're going to take this, and then combine, and then put most of the money through that. So that way, if you're a little bit more just like careful in the planning and the testing, I think you can be like a little bit more resourceful, and you don't need like a big budget. But I do think sometimes people approach ads like, oh, like I need to have like at minimum $1,000 a month or something to run ads. And they're like, if I'm solo and trying to like hire, like I don't have
Yeah.
that available. So just being strategic, and that's what I like to do is like the strategy behind it and the testing with it. I think really makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so what I hear you saying is that this is not something where you can just set it and forget it. You have to keep testing it until you
Yeah,
find what works best, maybe what's
de-
getting you the results you
definitely.
want.
Yeah. And then also like from quarter to quarter, sometimes like ad costs, like we've talked about in quarter four, typically so many businesses are putting their money into ads. So it kind of like elevates the cost of ad prices because this is the time of year where people are buying the most. And so that's where like you want to test a little bit in advance. So that way, when you are running a campaign, you're doing it like smart instead of just like letting it go and kind of spending willy-nilly. I mean, you can, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like I feel like any business owner just wants to be smarter about their like investment so that way they can put that money into something else as well. Or sometimes people even have like businesses have Black Friday ads that run and do really well and get really good engagement. And so even if Black Friday is over, sometimes campaign managers will still leave that ad running because it's still getting good engagement. So it's not necessarily like a set it, forget it, but it's just kind of like, okay, if we found something that works well after like testing, we'll keep that going until we start to notice like the metrics change, and then we might start testing something different. Yeah, there are like a few different things, but let me know if that answers that myth bust question because I feel like I covered a lot of components there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's important to really explain to people that it's not, ads are not something where, oh, I just need to know, I just give me more clients. It's really important to know the end goal,
Yeah,
but if the clients that you get are low quality, or if they're only coming in for free services, then that could be like a
yeah,
certain type of person that you don't necessarily want on your books. And
yeah.
but I mean,
Or
there's so
targeting an
much.
audience that just isn't who you want in general.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're spending money on that ad, but then they're not actually booking the ad.
Yes, there are so many things, and I think there's a lot of fear behind ads. And I think
Mm,
it's just because we just don't know when we're starting out, and that's why it's important to have these conversations. Because
mm,
if you have booking problems, ads will not fix your booking problems. They're not going to repair a broken system, and that's
yeah,
kind of what I speak to, which is that you have to have good systems in place already so that when you do start incorporating
absolutely.
people and you
Yeah.
start, adding those clients in, it'll grow. But it doesn't, if there's already something wrong, it's just going to make the crack even bigger. Um,
Oh, yeah. Because
yeah.
then you're spending money on ads, and then maybe that journey through if somebody books the appointment, but then once they get to like in person or even just to like the booking site, like, yes, like you don't want to be spending money on your ads and then having somewhere in that like standard operating procedure, if they like fall through the cracks, then that's money that's not being like recouped.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So when someone, let's say someone they come to you and they're like, "Pamela, I want to run an ad.
Mhm.
Here are all these professional photos that I took." Do you feel like
Mhm.
a professional photo works better for ads, or is there
Ooh.
like, do I already need to come to you having spent hundreds of dollars on really fancy photos
Mm.
in order for these ads to work?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I remember when I started like my business, I was spending like I think it was like 250 to $500 a month on like an ad. And this is like when I didn't know what I was doing, an ad in like a magazine, a local magazine. And they were like, "Do you want ad space in this local magazine? Like it's in the neighborhood that like you're in."
Yeah.
Um and so they just used like photos that I took that for my website. And yes, I paid a photographer for that, but like we were like trading services. So I got them at a discount, but also like professional photography wasn't her thing. So they're not like stellar photos. I mean, they're great for the
I
job,
think,
but
yeah.
also not what they are focused on. So, anyways, they used their photos, those photos, and made an ad. And so, I think in regards to what they had, the ad that was going, it was a good ad. I just think in the periodical that it was in, it was going to the wrong audience and it was missing people.
Mm.
So yes, that being said, like I don't think you need to have these like professional like creatives created in advance. That's really kind of also sometimes where the testing comes in, and then also like where organic content comes in too. And so we could see like sometimes people are like, oh, like this post performed well, like let's just boost this post. And kind of like that might be, I think, another myth that you talked about is like, all right, well,
Yes.
instead of just boosting that in the Facebook page, in the meta page, business page, we want to go and use that in the ads manager with some like qualified copy. Since we already know that performed well, and then like run it through there. Or sometimes, if we're confident already with like how well that's been performing, we can try to boost it through the ads manager, but that's a little bit like riskier. So all this to say, like, no, you don't need a lot of like fancy or professionally done like creatives in advance because that's also like an investment. That's like our job to figure out just what works well with clients. And if there's really nothing, then that's like a discussion that you can come from there. But like with everything on the internet, like you can create something pretty easily and pretty inexpensively.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a big misconception that, well, I think there are two big worries that people have. One, that it's going to cost $1 million to do, or just a lot, like
Mm,
too much. And that
mm-hmm.
number is different for everyone, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you just said that you were spending $200 a month, which I feel like is
Mm-hmm.
pretty feasible. That's $50 a week. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing facials all day, that's like, if you're priced the right way, it's a third of a
Yeah.
facial, right? That's like two
Yeah.
facials right there. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, or one if you do like an upgrade, you know? So like it's
Mm-hmm.
really affordable to do ads, but only if they're done the right way. So,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I know that that is a big fear is that it's going to cost too much, which you just busted that myth. It does not have to be, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to cost too much. And you're able to keep things within people's budgets,
Mm-hmm.
and test. And I think another thing is also people are just going to get magically booked immediately. And
Yeah.
that's the only way that it'll work. But there's a lot of testing. You're talking about how there's just so much testing that goes in. You have to test the copy, which is the words, and you have to test the creatives, which are like the pictures and videos.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to test them all against each other because that's just how it works. I know like
Yeah.
enough to be dangerous, but not enough to do it
Yeah. Yeah.
myself.
That's
but
awesome. Yeah.
but right? And so I mean, and
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I think you have it like down in the sense of just giving to somebody who's like, like who just like has a basic like knowledge of it, like listening to our conversation. That's like how they work is the testing progress or process. Without that, you're just kind of like hoping for the best. And that's the difference between like having the strategy and then also or just like hoping for the best. And I think that's similar to like in my experience when I had was paying for that ad space in like a physical magazine. I was like, okay, like it makes sense. But I think once you're like assuming that people are going to see things and not actually like going through like strategy and finding audiences and seeing what works well, then it's just it's going to miss out on that connection. And then the other thing about that is also like I think the testing part is like okay, finding which audience works best because you assume like you're like, oh, this is a like if I'm in the spa niche, like that's gonna work well, but like you might also find success in another niche that like you didn't think about, or like a sub audience. And so that's a big part of it too, is just the strategy behind it instead of just like putting money and hoping for the best. And I think that's also the difference between like boosting a post and
Yeah.
then like boosting a post strategically.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. It's everything is helpful and useful. I feel like I hope that Meta wouldn't have something available unless it was useful in some capacity. So I'm glad that there's someone who actually knows and understands and can put the strategy behind it, because as owners we wear so many hats and we can't keep track of it all. So to have someone that can keep track of that one little section of business is so, it makes, I feel like that's what sets a business owner apart from, the one that does it all versus the one that helps to delegate or helps themselves by delegating or outsourcing in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like I think yeah, just you having the bandwidth to like learn everything
Yeah.
in detail and then also like doing it and executing it to like the full extent. That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time in a day. And I think in the beginning, if you're solo or if you've just hired and you're trying to fill your books, like I get cutting costs, but then after a while, I think things start to fall through the cracks. And so
Yeah.
that's always my goal is trying to help business owners like get their time back and like with success and not having to worry about the
Mm,
endless cycle of like feast or famine or trying to
yeah.
figure out how to fill books and how to figure out ads and just
Yeah.
hoping it works, you know?
Yeah, getting off the hamster wheel. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that was my thing when I was first starting out, is that I have been very good about bringing new clients in, but we weren't retaining them. And so that was an interesting thing to like realize and then figure out. And so now I'm realizing that when I attract the right person, they do stay, but those people
Nice.
are not as there's a smaller group of people. I was
Yeah,
casting a
yeah.
wide net before, but I was exhausted. And now it's a little bit better.
See,
Um,
that's strategic in
Strategic, yes. So,
its own
okay.
way. You're like analyzing what you had to do and then like getting a plan.
Yes, strategic. I think that word gets thrown around a lot sometimes, especially by like coaches of like you need
Mm.
a strategy, be strategic. And it's like, what does that mean? Like how
Hmm.
do we know what that means? And I like that you gave it a definition. You said that you get your time back successfully.
Hmm.
And like
Hmm.
successfully, I mean, I guess could be defined also as like you're paying yourself well and you're not on this hamster wheel, like I just mentioned. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I think it's important to like really make sure that the person listening knows that when you are strategic, it means you've gotten your time back, you're paying yourself well, and everything is running smoothly. It's bougie and it's boring, which is
Yeah.
exactly why it's one of the reasons why I named this podcast what I did. Um, so, okay, so what do you feel like is the number one fear that you keep hearing from spa owners when it comes to running meta ads?
I think like maybe trying it for themselves at first and kind of like seeing what it's about and then having a fear behind like the investment and then just being like ghosted because they're like one in a large agency or maybe that's
Mm,
happened before or maybe they've tried it for themselves and was like this didn't work for me so I don't understand why I'd want to hire someone and pay a budget on top of that too. um
mm-hmm.
so I think yeah, so I think that's where maybe kind of the leap of faith comes from. And then also just seeing like previous like case studies when you're looking to hire someone is helpful too. And then knowing someone has had like success in like your industry as well, just so that they know who they're targeting. Because like ads for sales of a physical e-commerce product is different than like local service-based ads. And then also like what Meta allows and doesn't allow. So I think demystifying a lot of that I think is helpful, but I think that's where that fear comes from is that there's like a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of talk around it, but then, and there's a lot of like hope, I think. And then also, but there's a lot of like fear because it's like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, then what?
Mm,
So I think that's probably I'd say the number one fear is just like the unknowns of like how it works and like if it works and if it's gonna work for them, which I think is is reasonable, but that's why I think it's good to have somebody who's like more well versed in like your specific industry or has had like experience in your industry, things like that.
No, that is so true. I know I've experienced it, and I'm sure a bunch of other spa owners have experienced it as well. So, just to kind of wrap up this episode, and I do plan on having you on again, Pamela, at least once a quarter so that you can help people and just kind of guide them through this process. Because it is something I think that every spa owner needs to have at least someone that they can talk to and ask questions about because this is so important. We just live in this world of social media now, so it's just important to have. Um,
Hmm.
so what do you feel like is the first easiest step that a spa owner can take after this episode to get going
Mm,
with ads besides contacting you? Because that is really truly the best next step. But after that, what do
sure.
you think is best?
I think getting maybe familiar with like ads manager inside of Meta just to know like
Mm,
what kind of metrics like they're looking at, and just kind of like seeing what that is on their hand, and then maybe even
mm,
like talking to, I hate to say like ChatGPT because I know that's controversial, but like talking to that a little bit and trying to get like a vocab of like what like cost per click and click through rate just might be helpful.
yes.
So that way when you're getting like reports back, you're like, okay, like I see like where my investment is going, and you're feeling like
Yes.
more confident. And that's something I think you can also be walked through, but I think just maybe getting like a little familiar is helpful, um,
Mm-hmm.
to being able to like, okay, like if you want to dive in onto your own or maybe like outsource that to someone else, whether it's like an assistant or things like that, you just know what you're looking at a little bit more.
Yes, this is actually this is stuff that I asked you. I was like, what is this? What does this mean? Like, is this supposed to
Hmm.
be? What is this supposed to be? I don't even know. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, like, and you are so kind and patient with me. And although I know enough, I don't know everything. And so I just am so thankful for your patience with me on it.
Thanks.
But Pamela, thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us today. I know that ads feel so intimidating to so many spa owners, but I feel like after they hear you explain the step by step, it makes it feel so much more doable. And if you're listening right now and you're telling yourself, I'm not tech savvy, which is something I hear so often, or you just feel like you're not quite ready for ads, I hope that this conversation showed you that you don't have to have it all figured out. I certainly don't. And you just need a little bit of clarity on what your end goal is, who you are trying to attract to your business, a simple strategy, and the right
Hmm.
support as well. I think that you will be so set and nearly unstoppable basically in achieving your goals. So thank you so much, Pamela, for being here and to everyone listening. I hope that you feel more confident and empowered in taking this next step in your spa owning journey. So thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, I really hope that that helped you to better understand meta ads and realize that they're not magic, right? It's not this scary, abyss that we have to just kind of ignore or hope that we never have to worry about or anything like this. So just remember that you can't hope that ads are just going to solve all your problems because they definitely won't. And they will also not fix a broken system. So if you already have leaks and cracks in your business, it's just going to grow those leaks and grow those cracks. But when done the right way, meta ads work. They work really well and they amplify everything that's already going well in your business. So if you want to learn more, connect with Pamela. All of her links are in the show notes below. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode helped you, please share it with a friend and someone who needs to hear it. And I will see you on the next episode. Have a good one. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, please take a minute to leave a review and share with a spa owner friend. If you're ready for more support like this, I have left the link to my free 30-minute discovery call in the show notes below. I would love to learn more about you and your spa and what it is you are trying to accomplish right now in this season of life. Until next week, peace and love, my friend. I'll talk to you later.